Hi, my name is Ken Lasselson. I wrote and run the microbiome prescription website, and I'm going to diverge from the microbiome to go over into solving a problem which I keep seeing, which is people keep lousy health records, which means they don't know if something is helping or not helping, or they have no way of doing it. To me, the answer is very simple. The more information you have, and the more accurately it's recorded, the more knowledgeable your decision can be made. If you take something for 3 weeks, and at 3 weeks you think, well, it hasn't helped me at all, often people will stop. The thing may have helped. It may have been a slow progressive help, which they literally never noticed. So in order to get around that problem, I tend to advocate, because they are cheap. I mean cheap. Doesn't mean they don't work, doesn't mean it's a cheap good. They are surprisingly high quality for the price. Thanks China technology and ability to produce goods cheaply. And frequently you get features you won't find in Apple Watches or Fitbits or other things, which may cost you 10 times more. 10 times more. Okay, so we're going to talk about using smart health watches from China. Some frustrations are to be expected. Some of it is because they are learning the market, so the older devices are more problematic. The newer ones I've been very happy with, but there are also issues between the age of your phone and the age and when the watch was produced, because they use something called Bluetooth Low Energy, and that standard and behavior has been evolving, which means that the latest watch and the latest phone often work superbly well together, but older phones and older watches will sometimes be, no better word, temperamental. Okay, let's go in and take a look. Here are some collection of watches. Actually, I have most of those watches, and some additional ones. Here's one, here's another one, here's one more. I have one on my watch arm right now, etc. So I have collected them, not because I'm a collector. Most of them are sitting there and I no longer make use of them. And the reason I no longer make use of them is a new watch came along with more features, a better software application for it, and I've simply moved on. And I look at watches as being, when it's in a $20 to $40 price range, a 1-year experiment, a 1-year lease, $2 a month. $2 a month to have accurate health records is cheap, especially when in some cases you can go down to every hour, what is your pulse, what is your body temperature, what is your heart rate. So here are some examples. All of these I purchased from banggoods.com. They ship from China. Usually it's 2 weeks or less before they arrive, so the shipping time is actually quite good. It's China, they don't have COVID there, and not only that, but they sterilize the package before they ship, and that usually includes a little note. So in other words, you'd probably be safer ordering from there than anywhere, apart from having to wait 2 weeks instead of the next day delivery. But then again, you're paying a lot less. Delivery cost is usually $2 to $3 for the watch. So no particular big expense there. What I've done is listed the name of the watch, and sometimes the same watch can be available from 4 or 5 different brands. All of them are the same watch. The manufacturer and now they're simply branded. The one I'm currently using and has fallen in love, is so far the best of all of them, is the E66, $42. The one which I had been using for I got out one was a T1, which is $17. Talk about cheap. And after that, I had the name of the Android application or iStore application that runs it. So you may want to go and download the application and take a look around it before you decide on which one. WearFit 2 is good. Smart Health is even better. Some of the older ones are there, and download, install, etc. WearFit 1 is not as sweet as WearFit 2, And again, some people want these big round clunky things. Other people prefer the little bands. Other people prefer the square. So you have some choice there, but you need to check on the Banggood site what characteristics it is, but more importantly, what the software that talks to it is, because every watch would probably be using a different software. Okay, so let's go on, and you have looking at Banggood's, trying out the apps from the iStore or Google Play Store. You figure out which one you want. Now, before we get into it, I want to explain to you, to set your expectations of what you expect, what low energy Bluetooth is. Low energy means just that. Its purpose is to put an absolutely minimal drain on the battery. Why? So this battery would last for a week instead of 5 hours. If you go and take a look at Apple Watches, many of them require to be charged every single night. That's not true with these. Some of them you may want to. Others, like this one, I've been doing measurements every 10 minutes, and it's down 10% of its power in 24 hours. It will literally go on for days and days and days without having to be recharged. Usually I do try to recharge once a day to keep battery life up, as in number of recharges there. But let's get back to what low energy Bluetooth is. The watch sends out a short message every 1 to n minutes. Just say, beep, I'm here. And message is just a bunch of bytes set on a certain frequency. The phone sees it and says, okay, I see this device. I see this device. And the message coming out is nothing but a device identification message. Now, the device will go and wait until its next cycle before trying to connect up. So your phone will send out repeated messages saying, please connect, please connect, please connect. And then the device will eventually wake up and do it. Sometimes when it tries to do it, something goes wrong, a signal gets scrambled, electrical interference or variety, and it takes a couple more minutes before things get connected. Bit of frustration, but the reason it was done was to have the battery life work. I know quite well because about 10 years ago I was involved in a startup using low energy Bluetooth, because that was literally had just been released, and I can assure you I had frustrations trying to program for reliability of connections with low energy Bluetooth. So I'm not surprised that connection issues do show up. They get less and less as get newer and newer watches, but the older watches and the older phones, you are going to have a degree of frustration. But then again, if the cost is cheap and you won't put up with the frustration, then you may decide to upgrade to a newer stuff. So watch will auto disconnect to save battery power. I have this watch here. It's not connected to my phone. When I go to the phone and ask it for information, it will say connected, syncing, and you may have 1 or 2 minutes, or actually now more like 10 to 15 seconds of the transferring data back and forth between this device, which has memory in it, on my phone, and then the phone shows you what the information is. The information doesn't get continuously fed. That's a battery drain. That's explicitly what we are trying to do, not do, with a low energy Bluetooth. I've already mentioned, but just to mention it again, phone and watches may have different varieties of BLE, which is low energy Bluetooth, Bluetooth low energy. And with latest phone, which I have here, which is a Pixel 4a 5G, and my latest watch, which I think was only released within the last 6 months, no hassle, everything works beautifully. Same phone with some of the older watches. Sometimes I have to work at getting connections going, which is what I'm going to be talking about. It's how, from experience, I've learned to get those connections going. This one makes it sweet. The other ones, if you check in once a day and you have to go through all the hassles, not a particular problem. word of caution on charging. The latest phones and a lot of new devices comes with a charger. The charger puts out 3, sometimes even 4 amps of power. This device, when it arrived, had a warning not to be charged on over 2 amps. And actually, once I read that, I said, okay, that's what happened, because I was having problems with some odd behavior on one of the old watches because I had been charging it on a 3 amp charger, a fast charge. They don't take fast charge. They take the older technology in terms of the battery technology. Older often means cheaper. Hence, you pay less for it. So the low energy watches should be charged with a low energy, a 1 amp, no more than a 2 amp charger. Check to see how much ampage output is on your device and make sure you're using a 1 or 2 amp only. Okay, let's go on. You get the watch arrives. I know you want to put it on, try out right away. Don't. Charge your watch as soon as you get it, and the main reason is it's much kinder or nicer to your battery, which means your battery will go for deeper recharge and will last longer. So don't immediately use it. Give it a full charge. The watch, once fully charged, will usually show a battery which is solid all the way up and down, indicating full charge. While it's charging, it will have the same battery and a light bar going up, 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 indicating it's being charged. Install the software. Then we start getting to what I'm going to be focused on. Open Bluetooth. You can either use the built-in Bluetooth browser or a custom application and verify that you can see the device. You want to see the device. You do not want to connect to or what is called bind to the device. No binding. You just want to see if you can see it. So here is from my phone. I'm using a custom scanner just because it's so sweet, and it shows the name of it, which is the name sent out by Bluetooth, and the address. The type unknown is because the scanner doesn't know that this type of device is a watch, so hence the unknown. And so far, almost all the watches I've dealt with from China has type unknown. Hopefully, the Bluetooth scanner will be upgraded so it can figure out what type it is, but they are largely proprietary types which are specific to the watch. You also see the address, which is just like an internet address, and it is for connecting up to the watch. And key thing, do not connect to them. Most of these watches will only allow one connection to one application. If you connect up to it for your phone, you do a bind, guess what? That's how you connect. When the app goes to get your data, the watch says, sorry, I'm already booked. I'm booked to the phone. I will not send you any data. In fact, you will not even connect to me. So do not connect to them. And most will only allow connections to one application. Not 100% true, but happens enough that you should pay attention to it. Now, if you go in and, for example, here I'm using RareFit 1.0, one of the older ones. I come in and I see, and I have this whole string of devices sitting here. The i5, the T1S, the ID1228 color, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 different watches there, and then I have some other devices which could be PCs, or it could be, in this case, it's probably Bluetooth printers, or other Bluetooth devices. Bluetooth is getting used more and more. So I could come in, I happen to know that the watch I was working with, the Big Watch LE, is the one I need, so I simply click there, and then it says connected, shows it, disconnect band. If I want to disconnect, connect someplace else. But once you have connected, you are good and can start transferring data back and forth, including what time it is. Usually the watch's time are set from your Android or your Apple device. You don't set them independently, and it means that the consistency over time. Newer application will have the list of things shown here to those who knows how to talk to, which is nice. Older ones like this one will show everything, and you can get confused about that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Most of the watches, all the watches will have a plain English name to it, not unknown device. So you can make use of that. Oops, and let's go back one. Okay. Newer ones, for example, will show less devices. Here are a different app. I come in and I see only 2 here. I don't see this big list of 5. I just see 2. The rest of them, the phone looks at the signature and the information as to what type of device it is and say, I have no idea how to connect to you, or sorry, you don't match the pattern I'm looking for. So, I have some devices here. I could click on one of them and I may suddenly get a prompt. So prompt, try to restart the Bluetooth because it was unable to connect to it. The software assumes that there's a problem with Bluetooth, which, especially with older phones, it more likely is. As I said, I was programming 10 years ago and was having joys back then. Things have improved, but you still have quirky behavior with Bluetooth and older phones. If you have a valid device, you may need to troubleshoot. Troubleshooting is very straightforward if you remember to do it step by step. Go back and check Bluetooth to make sure there's not a binding to the watch. Remember, it will block the application connecting. If there is, select it and tell it to forget. Tell the Android to forget this particular device which it has done the binding to. When you bind things, you're asked for permission to bind, so hopefully it hasn't happened, but sometimes it does happen by accident. Next thing is restart Android or iPhone. Older phones handling a BLE is not the best, and sometimes the memory sort of gets corrupted. So just restarting the phone often will allow you to reconnect. You could also up here, after you check that, you could try turning Bluetooth off and on, and sometimes that is sufficient. Last one is a gotcha for some devices, a couple of them, not many, but a couple of them, actually the device allows you to turn Bluetooth on or off. And the reason is if you don't plan to use it with a phone, turn it off and your battery life is better. So they gave that feature in the watch itself, and you have to navigate into the watch to find where you enable Bluetooth or disable it. So that's the last gotcha of the gotcha which I've experienced. Okay, let's go and see what I suspect is the latest software application out there with the latest watch, Smart Health. And basically, once you've done your connection up there, when you come to your home screen, if you're not connected, you see a nice little red bar there. Instead of having to go over into connection and try clicking here and try connecting up, it remembers what the idea of the last connection was. All you have to do is click there, and voila, it's connected. And usually a downstroke of the phone or whatever your application supports is all that you need in order to bring the data over. As you can see here, it's all the data is over, and now I'm connecting. I'm getting the information across. So Smart Health, as I said, is the interface which I've been most pleased with. I've tried the other ones. It's a nicer one in general. There's a couple of things which I would prefer them having done a different way, but it's a minor inconvenience what they didn't please me 100% on. Okay, let's go on and see what you get. Okay, remember, the older watches will have less of these features. The new watches will have more of these features. Why? Very simple. They keep re-engineering to generate more and more features, and while they are doing it, usually they're also working on having so the devices work with less electrical energy needed, less battery drain, which means it's a win-win. You just keep improving and keep improving and keep improving. So this is what the current state of the art appears to be. So we have the very nice useful thing of how many steps you have done today, how many miles, all the other stuff. Then we have a ECG electrocardiogram, and it will do a 1-minute electrocardiogram for you. This particular watch does a very, very nice one, much more detailed and precise. I just have a feeling it'd be more accurate than the older watches, which is again not surprising. They keep improving technology. Blood pressure just gives you your latest, your highest, and the lowest. You can set a blood pressure alarm so that if your blood pressure goes over a certain amount, an alarm will fire up. If you're in a high stress job, definitely set a BP alert so that if that alarm goes off, you know that you need to exit the room rather than have a coronary attack. We have the heart rate, what the beats per minute is. Again, a nice the numbers here, another nice color scale, basically in the middle. Sleep, how many hours sleep you have, total sleep duration. So, for example, my target was 8 hours. I got a total of 5 hours, and I got up at 2 o'clock because both of my arms was aching from shots. I had 2 shots yesterday, one for pneumonia and the other one for blank shingles. The result was I had 2 arms which were sore, which the swelling and soreness started coming up just before bedtime, and the result was by 2 o'clock I was wide awake and very uncomfortable and got up. So I had a 5-hour sleep, which is not that bad. I functioning. We have also blood oxygen, what percentage you are. Has that. It also will give you the numbers, which I'll show you in a moment. Respiratory rate is something new which they have added on this version, which the older version doesn't. How many times a minute are you breathing, your max and your min, and what the latest data is, the body temperature, or usually surface body temperature. So you get all of this information being recorded to your watch automatically and then transferred to your phone, which means you now have a 3 months, 6 months, 9 months record on your phone of exactly what your characteristics are. Nice, simple, reasonably accurate for the purposes which you should be using it. So all these features sitting there, sort of impressive set for a $20 or $40 watch. You sort of go, wait a minute, you don't get those features on. Check out the latest Apple Watch or even Samsung Watch. You won't get all those features on it. You will get some of them, and some of them, I believe the features are available, but they have not enabled them for one reason or another, often regulatory. Okay, so tracking changes over time is an example of use. For example, I saw my BP drop progressively over a couple of weeks. I had sepsis, went in hospital, high BP, and the physician wanted to put me on some blood pressure thing. I said, no, wait, hold off, let me go and go back to my regular supplements because I remember they had the effect of lowering blood pressure. And indeed it did, and I could actually see the blood pressure coming down and down and down until we got to a good level. And here for the blood pressure, we have the little bars here showing here, and you notice things jumped up there and then came down. Things jump up here in terms of heart rate and came down. Guess what? Right here is when I had my vaccination. About an hour later, my system kicked in responding to the vaccination. I could literally see the response that my body was having to having received the vaccination. The response is not unexpected because a vaccination is a mini infection, and traditionally with infections, BP goes up and heart rate goes up. And actually, I'm seeing it literally illustrated here as a result of the vaccination. So it worked. I could see the changes and could see the recovery. It took about 3 hours for it to recover, and it's actually still hasn't gone back to where it was in the morning the day before, which is not unexpected. My arms are still sore from the vaccinations, so I'm probably still having a infection style response. So, question is, what is my recommendation? Okay, I tell you, my best experience are with two watches. One is the T1, which is a rare fit, 2.0 for the software. It's $17. We have actually several of them in this house. Couple of them absolutely beautiful. The battery life will literally last for days. One of them that came in charged up, and I think it was possibly because it was in poor state and went to a high amperage charge. Rarely lasts more than 24 hours. So you can damage the battery life by putting on the high amperage, which is what I seem to have done. So I mentioned that sometimes it could be that, or could it being a defect in manufacturing or old stock or something else. Sometimes some of them will have shorter battery lives than others. I'm quite happy with the ones that goes for days and days. Connecting can be a little bit frustrating. It's probably the least frustrating of all of the other ones except for the next one. And it allows automatically hourly recording of pulse O2, heart rate, BP, temperature, EKG. And you only choice is hourly. You can turn it on or off. You have things like sedimentary alarm and other things too, but that's basically what comes with it. The E66, which is a newer watch, double the price. One of the reasons I purchased it was it came with a much bigger battery. I was originally intending it to be for the wife who was having problems with that bad T1 or the short battery life T1. So I was looking for one which had the bigger amperage battery storage capacity. Connection with it I found is very reliable. Again, it may be because I'm running a brand new phone. My old phone died, so it's a state-of-the-art phone. The Pixel, and connecting is reliable. In fact, actually, it's quite comical because if I have the app open, then I will see connection, disconnect, connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. So it's continuously connecting, which is fine because I shouldn't have the app open all the time. As I said, use it to check how things have gone once a day. Don't do it every hour. Don't become OCD on checking your BP and other things. I have known people who have become OCD for checking blood pressure, and they drove their blood pressure through the roof because they were so obsessed with it. Stress increases blood pressure, so it became a nice feedback loop of the type. The E66 allows you to set the time interval. Yesterday I set it to be every 10 minutes, did a full charge to see how much battery drain it takes. I was actually very surprised because after 10-minute interval, after 24 hours, it went from 100% battery charge just down to 90%. That's impressive. And it also added in respiratory rate, which the other one doesn't. How they do the magic of getting there? Well, there are actually articles online of how from a wrist monitoring device they can get things like respiratory rate. Saturated O2 is easy because if you go and put your finger thing on, it has a little light in that which is used to calculate the O2. It has the same type of light. The other things, the EKG, it has two big metal pads, so it basically listens into your heart electrical activity. So a lot of the features you can actually find makes sense to be able to put it into a watch. It's just putting it into a watch, making it small enough, light enough, and be able to do things like measure every 10 minutes, where you suddenly have this sweetness to be able to do good monitoring. Okay, this is not medical grade. Simple as that. I think the iPhone is trying to get some sort of official medical approval before they turn on some of their more advanced features which are already turned on by default here because, hey, This comes straight from China. No FDA regulatory approval required. The chips on it, I would suspect, are very close to the chips being used in iPhones and Samsung. So I'm not too concerned about quality. China does a tremendous volume of manufacturing of electronics. Most of the electronics is made in China now. It's high-grade products. Numbers will sometimes go strange for a reading. Suddenly it just goes bananas. It could be because your watch is no longer tight on your wrist or something else is happening. So you do get the occasional strange reading. My concern is to look at it once a day and take a look over the whole day, not be concerned about, oh, why in the world? I want to collect my blood pressure goes sky high. In my case, I happen to know why it was. It was a response to having gotten some vaccinations. Bottom line is these are cheap experiments with a relatively low cost. Personally, I expect the life of a watch to be 1 to 2 years. Batteries are not replaceable. Obsolescence, but more importantly, newer versions will usually have more features, better battery, better software, which means you really want to upgrade to get the latest set of features, the longest battery life, the best experience. Okay, with that done and said, I think I am going to go and just shut this up. So have fun, and it is nice to be able to get all these measurements done automatically every day for you or every 10 minutes for you, as the case may be.